I come from the Ogiek people, the indigenous people, one of the indigenous peoples of Kenya who live in the forest just like you. So we are people of the forest. Traditionally, we are hunters and gatherers. We depend on the forest for livelihood and for everything. But our traditional way of life has been greatly eroded by successive governments that we have had in Kenya. Not began with those governments. They began with the European colonialists who came and colonized Kenya. As you all know, indigenous peoples' territories are very fertile lands for agriculture. They are vast minerals, and these attracts so many people who come with negative impacts to our lands. But for our case, it was not about minerals, it was about logging. The Europeans came and destroyed like 50% of our forest. They cut trees, indigenous trees, for their steam engine. Some they exported to Europe. So that saw the destruction of our forest, like 50% of it. With the coming of the post-colonial government after independence, the same government kept on with the policies of the white people. They came up with oppressive policies and laws that were meant to further infringe on our rights. Our land rights struggle began in 1996 when the government came up with this idea of subdividing our land and bringing in different people, major big communities from Kenya, and dished out those pieces of land to them for agriculture and settlement and all that. When they did that, our people decided to challenge the government move by going to court. We decided to use the non-violence means and to pursue our rights through the courts. That is when we filed the first civil case in 1997 at the Kenyan High Court. We sued the government of our wish because we wanted to own the land communally. It was a communal land. We didn't want to subdivide the land. So the government had a lot of influence over the courts as well. So the case dragged for 18 years. But finally, we got a favorable judgment in 2014, where the courts declared itself that our rights had been infringed on, and asked the government to give back our land. Again, when that case was going on in Nairobi, because we had waited for so long and thought that justice will not prevail, we went further to the African Court on Human and People's Rights. It's a regional court that is based outside Kenya in Tanzania. Again, it took some time, but not so long like the one we filed in Nairobi. By 2017, we again won against the government of Kenya. The court decision at the African Court on Human and People's Rights was the very first major case to be won by members of the indigenous peoples from the entire Africa against a sitting government. It was a historical win. In the same court, we filed another petition again against the government of Kenya for the harm that they caused the Ogiek community and through the injustice. So the court again found the government of Kenya to have violated Ogiek rights, to have tampered with Ogiek way of life and livelihood, and again it gave Ogiek reparation, some form of compensation for the harm suffered in terms of money. So the government was ordered to pay the Ogiek 157 million for the harm caused. So that money was not compensation for our land, but compensation for the suffering that we have undergone through all that time. But here comes now the sad part. After all those efforts, many years of fighting for rights, and after both the National High Court in Kenya and the regional courts of Africa deciding, making those important decisions in our favor, the government of Kenya has totally failed to implement those judgments. 3 weeks ago, we went again back to that court, and the government was again called to appear before the judges. And interestingly, they asked to be given 3 more months to implement the court decision. So we are still waiting to see whether that is true or they were just buying time. So what I want to tell you is that we will not give up. We will fight and fight until we get our rights and our lands back. And I want to tell you that I've heard about your struggle here as well. And I want to tell you, you don't give up. You have to fight for as long as you live. You have to fight for your rights. I also want to challenge you that you need to bring young people into the movement so that they can take over from you when you get old, like our senior man here who has been in this struggle for the longest time. So you need to bring young people so that they can help in the struggle, so that they can pass it on also in future to other young people until you get your rights back. That is the only way you can sustain your struggle. When our struggle began, I was still a very young boy. I didn't know what was happening. But over time, I've come and held the mantle. Most of the people who started our struggle are dead, but the struggle still lives on. So the worst thing that you can do is to lose hope. If you lose hope, you've lost everything. We need to keep the faith and hope until such a time that you'll get your rights. Finally, I want to say that I'm really happy. I've also learned a lot from you. I've been learning from Roma here. She's been telling me about this struggle, and I'm so happy. I'll go back home with something as well for my people that I've learned from you. So let's keep the struggle, let's fight until we get our rights. Thank you.